Things are grim, and I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I've been researching the effects of this war on an already weakened economy, and the news is not good. And we're going to go through and systematically lay things out for you as we go through several segments on the economy. And I'm doing so not to depress you, but to make you realize you've got to take some definitive actions and you've got to do it starting today. If you don't, you're going to be the victim of worsening circumstances and you'll be at the mercy of business and government that already has proven how much they don't care about you. My name is Dave Hodges. I'm the host of the Common Sense Show. We are the show that is freeing America one enslaved mind at a time. Thank you so much for joining us. And we are brought to you by a tremendous set of products here, and they've really given me my life back. And it's the Magic Dicol products, the 3-pack. The Nanosoma liquid spray, immune system boosting like you wouldn't believe. You've heard me talk about what it's done for me. May not be here right now if it wasn't for this. Then you've got the gel that you rub on your sore spots, the joints that don't function the way that God intended. Well, they will if you put it on and keep doing it. It took me 6 to 8 weeks to get total relief. What it does, it grows pluripotent stem cells, restores functioning, and the pain goes to nearly zero. And then, of course, there's the skin cream, cuts and burns together, 15% off for the starter pack. You can get it by going to iwantmyhealthback.com/Dave Hodges. iwantmyhealthback.com/Dave Hodges. Now, we are going to take a look at something just called gas prices. And I'm not even projecting this on a weakened economy. What we're going to be looking at here is the fact that gas this summer, and we're almost there, people. We are, what, 5.5, 6 weeks out from the official beginning of summer. We're a couple weeks out from the unofficial beginning of summer. And I'm going to say when we're in June, we're going to start seeing $6.50, $7 a gallon across the board. Trump has artificially kept the prices down through some hook and crook kind of deals. Oh, we're close to a peace deal. Yeah. And then the futures market kicks in. Insiders make money. They repress the price because futures thinks that, oh, okay, well, things are going to be okay and go back to normal. Well, they're not. That's just happened 3 times. How many times can Trump call wolf? How many times can he call wolf and you don't get a response? Exactly. That's coming. And what we really need to worry about is diesel. Now, I've done some calculations here based on $8 a gallon for diesel. I'm telling you right now, when it reaches 6.50, you're probably going to see the effects that we're going to go through here. And we're going to have to divide these up into several segments because there's so many aspects of the economy. And none of it is good, but there are still things that individuals can do. It's kind of like, are we headed towards the end times? Let's say that you believe that. I'm making a metaphor here. Yeah, okay, so can humanity be saved from the tribulation? In that example, no. Can individuals do things to ensure their salvation? Absolutely. And the economic equivalent to this is in effect right now, but the window isn't going to stay open indefinitely. You really seriously need to look at what we're telling you and take appropriate actions. Okay, so let's go through some projections that I have found, and I have studied economists upside down, left and right. I've done some partial reports on this, and this goes back to largely October, November of last year. If gasoline reaches $7 a gallon and $8 for diesel, and believe me, these are overestimates, you could probably reduce these by $1 each. But the economic effects would be severe and widespread. You have immediate consumer effects. Household budgets get crushed. Families would suddenly spend hundreds more per month on transportation. Commuters, especially in suburban and rural areas, would be the hardest hit. Disposable income would collapse as consumers redirect spending towards fuel. You have less restaurant spending. That means people are going to get laid off. Restaurants are going to close. This becomes a hardship on the bank. Keep that phrase in mind. Hardship on the bank. People will take fewer vacations. That hurts the tourist industry. Some of you say, well, I don't care about, well, it affects the economy. It affects the tax base. Then you'll have reduced retail purchases, dramatically so. Now people start to really differentiate the difference between needs and wants. And this is a key distinction now that Americans have blurred because of our prosperity, or let's say prosperity based on debt. And now you have reduced retail purchases. What does that mean? Well, more people losing their jobs, more businesses closing, and retail and consumer spending drives the economy as the biggest driving factor. That puts the brakes on, and that is a key element. And then you get into ancillary, like I said, catalyst domino effects, because then you're going to have commercial real estate failing at a greater rate than it already is. We'll cover that later. We're also going to look at people can't pay their home mortgages because they've lost their jobs. Well, okay, that's going to catastrophize the debt situation with mortgages. Okay, discretionary spending is down. Right now, 65% of America can't afford a $500 car repair bill. What does that say about the state of the economy for the people? I'm not talking about the 0.1% of the elite that are making money hand over fist and life is wonderful for them. And Trump brags about how good the economy is. He's speaking to the top 1.1% of the elite. He's not talking to you. If he has a brain, he knows how bad it is for you. Okay, let's continue on. Food prices. This is, there's really two critical elements here. One is food and the other is medicine. Trucking costs explode. There's a time when the truckers aren't going to run. Now, I've been told that number is $6.50 for diesel. We're not that far off. And I was doing projections based on $8. I think that's a pipe dream to think it's going to go that long. Farming costs would rise sharply. Now, if the war continues in the Middle East, you got a fertilizer problem. It's already surfacing. Fertilizer is going to go through the roof in price. It's going to be hard to obtain. Farmers are going to farm less acreage. That's going to mean less food. Do the math. Do the math. And then if the trucks aren't running, you have a food supply chain problem. We depend on the 3,000-mile salad, as the metaphor goes. So what we have to do is ship the food from the farm, okay, processing to the store. You have to be able to drive there and get it. This is a problem. And everything that's shipped or transported by truck is going to be out of reach for many people because of increased costs. Now, what will we see specifically? Higher meat costs. You're seeing it right now, aren't you? More expensive produce, increased packaging food costs. So you'll start to see little games they'll play like shrinkflation. In other words, we used to give you 16 ounces. We're going to try to charge you pretty close to the same, but we're going to reduce that to 12 ounces. That's called shrinkflation, and this is already happening. Deliveries will be delayed. Shortages will occur. Increase shortages of key goods. Now, retailers will pass these costs on to the consumers that can't afford the costs. We don't have $500 of buffer for most Americans on month to month. High fuel prices. Let's get into some other areas of that. You're looking at airlines. We'll travel home to see Aunt Bessie for her anniversary or 50th anniversary. Not going to happen. Shipping, good luck. Amazon will become unaffordable. Agriculture, we've already hit that. Manufacturing, yeah, well, that's going to slow down. And the government will probably at some point take over manufacturing because they need it for national defense. Hello, can you say continuity of government? It'll kick in with manufacturing because of its necessity for national security. Then construction will stop. More jobs lost. More companies broke. More loans default. Where does all this end up? With the banks. And you wonder why I talk about Dodd-Frank. Now, I'm going to take a second here and plug one of our advertisers because they're right in what they're saying. What they offer is insurance against your losses because insurance companies don't fail. At least the big ones don't. And they do, Ironhawk Financial does IULs, and they are largely recession proof. If you want the biggest firewall that I know of right now, you'll go to dhawk.com, put in your information. They'll tell you right away, we can help you, we can't help you. Right away, they'll tell you. And I'm telling you, it's a buffer against a lot of these costs. I don't think it's an absolutism, but it is a buffer. Emergency services can't respond. The ambulances and the fire trucks aren't going to have the money. What? It's a 2 alarm fire? No, we're not going to respond to that. 4 alarm? Okay, we'll go. These are the decisions you're going to see. The Federal Reserve, what do? Raise interest rates. Okay, further recession if that happens. But the new guy coming in has already said what he's going to do. We need to reduce the value of the debt. And the way you do that is to increase inflation. So the existing debt on the books actually costs less in purchasing power to buy it down. Well, and what's the biggest thing we have debt on right now? The interest on the national debt. It's not defense. It's not healthcare. It's not the student loan debt. It's interest on the national debt. This is absolutely incredible. So we're going to see lower interest rates and the printing presses come out. We're delaying the death of the dollar. This is what I'm talking about here. We're going to see hyperinflation until the system breaks. What's going to happen when the system breaks? Well, we'll talk about that in another segment. Housing market damage. Consumers are already restrained by mortgage rates. Insurance costs would have gone up 46% in 3 years. And of course, food costs. We're going to see increased apartment demand, but the rental market's being bought up by Blackstone, BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and the equity buyers are turning homes into rentals. They're building home rental communities, and they're charging an arm and a leg, and we're going to see multifamily generational home and habitation. And America's culture is not used to that. People say, well, they do it in Asia, but their culture is ingrained towards this. Ours is not. We're going to see things like domestic violence rise exponentially because of this and all the other effects that go with it. Delivery services that we've depended on, no. Mobile repair businesses can't afford to reach you. Sorry. That hole in your roof, you better learn how to patch it yourself. Now, we're going to stop it here to let this sink in because this is not hyperbole. This is not fear mongering. This is based on the research that I have done over an 8-month period, and we are headed towards catastrophic consequences. And of course, if you had a debt and your biggest expense was the interest on the debt, what kind of condition would your family budget be in? Do you think it would affect how you live? Exactly. Well, that's what our nation's done. They can play games and they can soften the blow for a while, but all these delay tactics they use, they're only going to last so long. It's just like a heroin addict taking a second injection to reduce the pain of withdrawal. But eventually, because you have to increase the dose, the worst happens. Well, this is what we're talking about here. When we come back in the next segment, we're going to talk about the political and social instability that's already beginning to rise. And I'll give you a teaser. I've never seen a movement as emotional in my lifetime as the MAGA movement. Like it, hate it, doesn't matter. No one can deny that this movement was of epic proportions and momentum. And in just a year and a half, that momentum is gone, the effect is gone, and reality is setting in. And people are beginning to understand terms like fractional reserve banking. They understand what the interest rates do to the economy or printing money. People are beginning to understand the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor reserve. It's a bunch of crooks that keep money for themselves at your expense. People are waking up to the fact that Ron Paul 30 years ago when he called for an end to the Fed was right. And had we listened to him, we'd be avoiding a lot of these catastrophes right now. And people are waking up to the fact that America is not totally a sovereign nation. We went to war solely at the behest of a foreign interest that has infiltrated our government. No one's arguing this anymore, but the damage has been done. How bad it's going to get? Well, you have choices. I've given you a couple of choices here. One, you got to get healthy. That's why I talk about the nanosome products. Two, you need to have that buffer against hyperinflation. Well, the IULs from Financial Hawk, they can do this a lot. Ironhawk Financial is fantastic at this, and we're going to continue to give you options. Your option is not leaving your money in the bank. And I'll say this several times in this series. You're either going to get bailed in, where they're going to take a high percentage of what you've got in there and pay down the debt of the bank. Dodd-Frank 2010 allows them to do it, or you're going to lose it altogether. There is a third option, but we'll save that for later. I'm Dave Hodges. Stay tuned. More to come here on the Common Sense Show. Thank you so much for joining us. God bless all of you.